Today I'm going to be talking about the Fiskars Knife Juicy Juice Declassified Fabrics. I'll be reviewing the book Guide to Interfacings. I'll be demonstrating how to cut out fabric using acrylic templates, and there's a great giveaway at the end. I'm Sarah Lawson from Sew Sweetness. Thanks so much for joining me for Sewcial Sunday, my weekly sewing chat. Hey everybody, happy Sunday. Thanks so much for joining me for Sewcial Sunday. And I saw everyone chatting before the show, which makes me super happy. So thank you so much for joining me for Sewcial Sunday. Just a friendly reminder, just about everything that I talk about during Sewcial Sunday are things that I've purchased myself. So these are not things that I'm getting paid to talk to you about, but just cool things that I found that I'd like to share with you. And also everything that I'm scheduled to talk, all the products I'm scheduled to talk to you about tonight, I link to in the description, so if you're interested in finding out more about any of the notions, fabrics, projects, or books that I talk about on Sewcial Sunday, just check that link in the description and you can find out more information there. So one thing that I wanted to let you know about before I got started with the notion of the week, if you are participating in our Secret Santa gift exchange, Michelle Graham is hosting that gift exchange, and there's a slight delay in distributing everyone's partners. So if you're waiting to find out who your assigned partner is, you'll be receiving that email sometime this week. So just give us a little bit of extra time with that, but super excited. I know everyone that's participating is looking forward to making and receiving a Sew Sweetness pouch in time for the holidays. All right, so the notion of the week is a Fiskars knife. It's a small blade. It comes with 3 different blade options, and I just thought this was really cool, especially for cutting into those hard to reach places. So I'm going to jump over to the side camera and show you what this Fiskars knife is all about. Okay, so the packaging I couldn't open it nice and neat so that I could keep everything intact looking, but it comes with the knife. Let me show you what the knife looks like on the inside. Be careful though, it's very sharp. This cap reveals the knife, and it comes with 3 blades in total. So just this regular blade for cutting into fabric or interfacing. There's another blade with a flat top that's good for cutting your openings if you're making buttonholes in a garment. And this one right here with the pointed tip is for using as a seam ripper. So that's why it has that little tip to kind of grab onto your stitches and pull them out. I just left the regular knife on there. When you need to change out the blade, all you do is, the packaging instructions were a little confusing. Took me a while to figure this out. But you just push this orange tipped handle in the down position and it releases the blade so you can pull it out. I'm a little bit nervous about cutting myself, so I'm going to just leave it intact. But once you push that handle back up, then the blade is static and you can't remove it. Obviously it has this nice safety cap. I'm actually going to be using this Fiskars knife later on in tonight's demonstration, so I'm just going to show you what it looks like for now, and then I'll demonstrate it cutting into fabric later on. But this is what the packaging looks like, and it comes with the 3 blades like I mentioned. Okay, I'm looking forward to showing you this later in our demonstrations for how to cut out fabric using acrylic templates. We have the Park Sling Backpack Sew Along going on right now in the Facebook group, kind of in the middle of assembling the backpacks, but I wanted to announce the winner of week 2 for the sew along because we're doing prizes every week, and that winner is Mandy Durnall. So congratulations to you, Mandy. Michelle should be tagging you in the Facebook group, and also if you could just email me and I'll send you off your prize. So thank you everyone so much for participating in the sew along. I'm so excited to see the progress going on, and also excited as we approach the end of the sew along in a few weeks to see all of the finished Park Sling backpacks just in time for the holidays. So super exciting, and I love when everyone gets together and sews a project together online. So Danny's favorite part of the show, we'd like to invite all the bag ladies and bag dudes to let us know in the comments. We love the supportive community. Thank you so much for watching the show. If you don't watch us live, perhaps you watch later on in the week. And yeah, thank you so much for being part of our supportive sewing community. So new fabric that I've added to my stash this week is designed by Juicy Juice, and it is for Andover Fabrics. The fabric line is called Declassified, and if you like fabrics that are monochromatic or textish looking. I think you're gonna like this line. As you can see, really pretty colors. I'm gonna jump back over to the side camera and show you all the fabrics in a little bit more of detail. Okay, so I really like, first off, I really like the colors of this line, and I feel like these prints and the colors go well with his previous fabric lines, which I also own in my stash. Let me just go through the fabrics and show you all of the fabrics in detail. So most of them are small, quirky, either geometric prints or with a little bit of text to them. This one's really neon. I don't know if it's coming up on camera, but this is really bright neon, which I love. And I'll open some of them up just so you can get a better idea of the print and the design. I really love this print a lot. It's really cool. And I like the colors. I like that they're all, for the most part, cool colors. Everything looks really nice together, and it's just something a little bit different than other things that I have in my stash. This print I really love. I bought a 1-yard piece to make into a bag. This is just a fat quarter bundle just because I like to have kind of blender looking fabrics or monochromatic fabrics for making quilt blocks. This is a really beautiful blue color, this one. Okay, and I only have a little scrap of this left to show you because I cut out fabric over the weekend for a new pattern that I'm working on, so I used most of this fabric already for that. This one kind of reminds me a little bit of a batik, not exactly, but just kind of like the background to it. And here's another one, the same print, but in purple. And then Violet bought a bigger piece of this print to make into a bag. She really likes this one. This is a text fabric with a little bit of the geometric that you saw in some of the other prints. All right, and here's another coordinating print of that texty fabric. And then here's the last two prints. So again, this fabric line is called Declassified. It's designed by Juicy Juice, and I've linked to the fabric in the description in case you're interested in finding out more about the fabric, seeing all of the prints in detail, and yardage and bundles are available in that link that I linked to in the description. So last night I unexpectedly watched a documentary. I was planning on rewatching Gilmore Girls because Violet and I have been rewatching Gilmore Girls lately. We've watched it before, but it's just one of those series fun to watch again. There's a newer documentary on Netflix, if you have Netflix. It's called Game Changers, and my therapist on occasion mentions to me that food should be like medicine, and that kind of made sense. Here's the graphic from the documentary that I watched, and just to give you a quick summary of what the documentary was about, it's hosted by a UFC fighting champion named James Wilkes, and he also trains U.S. Special Forces in combat. And he sustained an injury, and during his downtime, he did a lot of research on the internet trying to figure out how he could possibly recover from his injury faster. And he came across some research about gladiators from ancient Roman history, and he noticed in the website that he came across that some scientists had been doing research on the bones of gladiators and found out that most gladiators were actually vegetarians. And since they were such highly trained athletes, he was curious to find out more information on why they were vegetarians. And so the documentary presents information not only directed toward athletes, but to regular people as well in regards to everyday health, just talking about the food that we eat and what it does to our bodies and what it does to our performance, whether you're a runner or just doing some exercise at home in your home gym. I thought it was really interesting. Try not to be super biased on my show, so I suggest if you're interested in food and health, take a look if you have Netflix. Again, it's called Game Changers, and it really provoked some thoughts in my brain about what am I eating? Is it the best thing for me? And I want to be around for a long time and could possibly the things that I'm eating help or hinder that? And so anyway, take a look. If you have Netflix, it's called Game Changers. I have a question for you, one of these questions that have been going on in my mind since I watched that documentary last night. Have you ever tried to cut anything out of your diet before? Anything, perhaps your doctor recommended you cut out certain things to help with certain health issues that you have. So I'm just curious. I recently cut way back on my dairy consumption. I was previously a really big cereal eater, like breakfast cereal in the morning, like with cold milk. Daily, I used to have between 1 and 3 bowls of cereal per day. So I cut back on drinking of the milk. I'm still eating cheese and certain things. I live in Chicago, so we have, you know, great deep dish pizza here, but I definitely noticed a big difference just in cutting back on drinking actual milk. So I'm curious if there's anything that you've cut out of your diet before. The book review for this week is actually something I know will be of interest to everyone, as we're all bag ladies and bag dudes. It's a very small, kind of like pocket resource book. It's called Guide to Interfacings, written by Christine Poor. And I thought it was really interesting and kind of right up my alley. So I'm going to jump over to the side camera and show you what this book is all about. Okay, so it's called Guide to Interfacings, and it's a small booklet meant specifically you can throw in your purse before you go to the fabric store. Just keep it in there in case you need a quick reference. I do have a Craftsy class that talks about interfacings as well. Craftsy has been rebranded in the last year and is now called Blueprint, but my class over there is called Building Better Bags, Guide to Interfacing and Structure. So you may have seen that class before. The beginning part of this booklet is, as most books are, general information and overview about what's contained in the book. And I thought this tip at the beginning was good, so I'm going to read this tip out loud. It says, testing your interfacing. Because there are no right or wrong answers when choosing interfacing, it is always best to test before you get started. This will ensure you get the result that you want. So I definitely concur with that. Everyone has their own personal preference when it comes to using interfacing in bags, and so it's always good to test your interfacing with your fabric before you get started. You can just make a little 5-inch swatch of the fabric and attach it to the interfacing per the manufacturer instructions. And then you can just kind of feel it and see if it's the thickness that you want for the bag that you're working on. If you think your machine can handle at least a couple layers of your little sample that you've made. So it's helpful to make little tests, especially if it's a new to you interfacing. So I really love this book because each interfacing is addressed with a little photograph. It talks about what kind of interfacing it is, some characteristics, what it looks like or feels like, the fiber content, some common, let me skip ahead, some common brands that produce that particular interfacing. In this one, an example is Pellon Shape Flex, which I think a lot of us are familiar with, what you would use it for, and then some tips for using that particular interfacing. And I thought it was really cool how they photographed the interfacings, because especially in a thicker interfacing like this sew-in foam, when it's folded over and pinned down, you can see that it is a bit thicker than, say, this right here, the buckram, which obviously from the photo you can see is a lot thinner compared to the sew-in foam. So all of the interfacings that I commonly use are touched on in this book. Decoville Heavy and Light is also touched on. I know that not every single brand available in the entire world is listed in the list of brand names, but a lot of them are certainly covered. So again, here's Fusible Fleece. It talks about what it's like, what kinds of projects you would use it in, and then how to fuse it and work with it when you get it over to the sewing machine. So I thought this was a great booklet. As you can see, insulated fleece is also covered. So basically anything that we would use for bag making. The book is over 50 pages long, so lots of products are covered in it, and there's a handy chart at the end for index of uses, like what types of projects you would be using the interfacings in, whether they're bags, clothing, and so on. So again, Guide to Interfacings, written by Christine Poor. And this was a really handy reference tool. And if you feel like you need something to carry along with you to the fabric store, I think this is the thing that you'll like to have in your purse when you're out shopping. So I have another question for you. Let me know, do you feel confident when choosing interfacing for a project? So perhaps you just use the exact interfacing noted in the pattern. In my patterns, I certainly like to list very specific interfacings so that there's no guesswork involved. I'll never have anything in my patterns just listed as medium weight interfacing because that poses a lot of questions. What exactly is a medium weight interfacing? But yeah, let me know if you feel confident when choosing interfacings, or if you like to be a little bit more loose and choose different interfacings than listed in the pattern based on your personal preferences. Like I mentioned before, everyone has their own personal preferences, and there's definitely no right or wrong answer when it comes to choosing our interfacing. So my demonstration for tonight is how to cut out fabric using acrylic templates, and I'm also going to demonstrate that Fiskars knife that I showed you earlier. So I'm going to jump over to the side camera, grab my cutting mat, and show you how to cut out fabric. All right, so I got this nice aqua blue cutting mat, and I'm going to be using the rotary cutter that I showed you, the Kai rotary cutter from a couple weeks back, and I chose to use the acrylic template that we have for the Paladin pouch. And so most of our templates, especially if they're bigger ones, are to be placed on the fold of the fabric. So I've got my fabric already folded. As you can see, it's folded wrong sides together. I'm going to lift this up a little bit higher. So I'm going to place the edge of the template on the fold. And if you'll notice over here in this corner, maybe I'll push the fabric to the side for a second. This is quite a small square in the corner of the template. My rotary cutter is not going to be able to hit that small square, so I'm going to show you where that knife comes in handy. So I'm going to use my rotary cutter to cut all of the longer edges of the acrylic template first, and you just want to kind of butt the blade next to the acrylic. And as you can see, I wasn't able to cut out that little square. Ooh, that's awful shiny. Sorry about that. I have to lay it flat to use the blade. All right, so I'm gonna take the cap off of my knife, and I'm just gonna slice that little square, and that'll take care of, as you can see, it nicely took care of that little corner of the acrylic template. Some of my acrylic templates, not very many of them, but a few of them have dashed markings for cutting out a slightly smaller size out of the interfacing, in this case the fusible fleece. So if you'll notice on these three edges, so the three edges without the fold, the dashed line is the same size. It's actually 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to go ahead and on these three sides here, here's my folded edge, I'm just going to go ahead and line up that dashed line on the edge of the fabric, and then I'll remove those three edges using my rotary cutter. Okay, one more edge. And I also have I had questions earlier today in the Facebook group asking how to cut out squares and rectangles, or that people had a hard time doing that. So I also wanted to show cutting a square or a rectangle from the fabric. So I like using non-slip quilting rulers. This is made by Omni Grip, and it has like a very slight grip on the wrong side of the ruler so that it's not slipping all over your fabric. It will slip a little bit, but the grip on the back definitely helps prevent the slippage. So I'm going to cut a 5" by 5" square. So my ruler is actually 12 inches by 6 inches. This is just how I do it. I'm sure everyone has their own personal technique. I'm just going to go ahead and quickly cut a 5" by 5" square. And I'm just going to slide my ruler over to 5 inches to cut the last edge. So cutting squares and rectangles is really easy with the use of a quilting ruler, and as I showed you that Fiskars blade before, that definitely comes in handy for really small or tight edges, which some of the acrylic templates do have. So handy way to make good use of that Fiskars knife. So in just a second, I'm going to be answering questions live. So if you have any questions for me, either sewing related questions, bag making related questions, question about a notion or tool, go ahead and type your question in the comments right now, either on Facebook or YouTube. Before we get over to the questions, I Wanted to announce the winner of last week's giveaway, and that winner was Whiskey Beach. So congratulations to Whiskey Beach. I've contacted you on social media and just waiting to hear back regarding your address so that we can ship off your prize. So congratulations again to Whiskey Beach. We have another giveaway at the end of the show, and as always, our giveaways are randomly drawn so everyone has a chance to win. All right, Danny's looking for some questions. He's going to be putting some questions on the screen in just a moment. I also wanted to let everyone know, because we had some requests and I mentioned it on my show last Sunday, we're going to be getting our acrylic templates for the tapered corners that a lot of you had requested. Those will be coming this week, so just watch us on social media or the website, and this is what the template looks like. This is just my sample, but all of the rest of the templates are coming in the mail this week. Pamela says, can you use that knife on a normal cooking mat? I don't see why you couldn't. That's a good question. I'll have to test that out after the show. Betsy says, be careful cutting towards yourself. I was taught to always cut away. Yes, Betsy, definitely. I hear you on the cutting, not cutting toward yourself. I think I felt a little, when I'm on camera, I always feel like I should reorient things as less as possible. So that's what I was trying to do on camera. But yes, normally I would be trying to twist or turn things around to be cutting in the most safe way possible. Beth says, Sarah, do you think you will ever make videos for the patterns in your books? That's a tough question. It's a hard thing with my two books. The first book is out of print now. The second book, I'm assuming, will be out of print in a little while. And it's challenging having videos for products that people don't have easy access to. Not everyone uses ebooks or a Kindle, and so it's something I've kind of struggled with. Danny and I were just talking about that in the car the other day. Actually, perhaps one day I'll be able to get the rights back to the patterns in both of my books, and then definitely it'll be a free-for-all as far as having videos and releasing those patterns. I'm not sure if that'll ever happen, but I guess it's a possibility. Kim says, when will the satellite template be restocked? We're getting more satellite bag acrylic templates when those tapered corner templates come in, so it'll be relisted on the website sometime this week. Is there a way to remove a rivet? There is. I suppose it depends on how complete your rivet installation went. I remember years ago Danny removing a rivet for me. When I had it on my tabletop press, the rivet did not go straight down and connect. It kind of went sideways, and so it was sticking up a little bit and crooked on one end, so he was able to use... Danny, do you remember using pliers? Or do you remember even doing that one time? Okay, we might have used pliers. I don't know. I was making the bag for samples for a trade show, and it was like the day that it had to be mailed, and I was so relieved to be all finished. And then when I went to go to my rivet press and press that rivet in, and it went sideways, I about had a heart attack because the bag was all done. But yeah, Danny was able to remove it. Let me know if you have a different situation going on. You can always email me. My email is sarah@sewsweetness.com, and that's Sarah with no H. RC wants to know, do you have any other foam besides Annie's that you go to? So several manufacturers make foam interfacing for sewing. By Annie's, Soft and Stable is one that's only available as a sew-in. Pellon makes, Pellon and Bozel both make 3 different versions. So they make a sew-in foam, a single-sided fusible foam, and a double-sided fusible foam. I personally like the sew-in foam just because I like how it looks in the finished bag, and I really like By Annie's Soft and Stable, but the other 2 brands do make sew-in foams in case fusible foams are not to your personal preference. And Pellon is available in a lot of big box stores, and Bozel and By Annie's Soft and Stable are available at quilt shops. Kathy says, do you use cutting gloves when using a rotary cutter, Sarah? I actually don't. I'm not sure if you're using the cutting gloves for safety, protecting your hands. I'd be curious to know what brand you use or what kind. If you feel like following up in the comments, I'll have Danny look for your follow-up comment. Kim says, for top stitching your bags, do you use a different thread weight than the piecing? And what do you normally use for both? So that's a great question. I like using 40 weight thread. I use Orifil 100% cotton thread. Polyester thread is also perfectly fine. I just like the thickness, and it's also good for top stitching if you want a really evident or visually evident top stitching. You can also try using 12 weight thread in your top thread, and you want to use 40 weight thread in your bobbin thread. You don't want 12 in the top and in the bottom because I feel like your machine will have a little bit of a struggle. I have tried the 12 weight in the top and the 40 weight in the bottom on several occasions. It's a really nice thick top stitching, but I don't use it all the time. I guess I preferred to leave my threads in my machine for as long as possible without switching out different colors, and so that's why I like 40 weight for the top stitching. Pamela says, do you like the Kai rotary cutter over other brands? So I do also have, here's the Kai rotary cutter again. I don't see my Olfa one in easy reach, but here's the Kai rotary cutter, and here's my little Olfa. I have a bigger Olfa as well. I talked about the Kai in regards comparison to my other two rotary cutters 2 weeks ago, and the main difference for the Kai is there's not a button or lever to show or hide the blade. The blade shows when you press down on your cutting mat or the cutting mat with the fabric on top. So that's the major difference between the Kai, the Olfa. They all have this little button over here that you push down to release the blade and push up to cover the blade up so that it's safe. And so I guess it depends on what you like better. I've dropped these before and the blades have just kind of popped out, so that's a little bit dangerous, but they both work well. I felt like the blades were both good, and other than that releasing portion of the blade, they functioned just as well, both of them. Have you ever considered designing a diaper bag backpack? Yes, I actually have. Kind of hoping to get it on my list for 2020. Kind of like a backpack with a frame in it. Also could be used as a diaper bag, so we'll see if that happens. Audrey says, do you know if there's a difference between Wonder Under 805 and 805R? Not sure off the top of my head. I'm not sure if Wonder Under does come in yardage, and it also comes in different thicknesses of tape, so I'm not sure if that's what the R is for. I guess I'll have to look that up after the show. Sorry about that, Audrey. Kate says, will there be a video for the Beatnik waist bag? There will. I can't say when. I'm just not sure, to be honest. I try to schedule myself out 6 months in advance as far as the full-length videos go, so we'll see if we can make it happen in 2020. Kim says, can you make a larger fabric bin big enough to hold blankets? That's a good question. I think the Faithwell storage bin, the largest size, probably would only fit 1 or 2 blankets at the most. I do have an idea for a different bin. I don't know, another potential pattern for next year, I suppose. Geraldine says, I have ruined so many projects after I press the interfacing. What causes it to look wrinkled? Too hot of an iron? Probably depends on what particular interfacing you're having trouble with, or maybe it's every single one. I doubt that's the case. I've found with fusible Peltex and sometimes with fusible foams, because often in bag assembly we're turning the bag right side out through an opening in the lining and kind of crunching it through that hole in the lining. The adhesive kind of comes unadhered, and it doesn't necessarily re-adhere if you iron the finished bag. So I feel like those two are the most common culprits. Sometimes you just need to press longer. I find that to be the case for especially fusible fleece or fusible thermolam. When I'm fusing those two products, I like to have the adhesive face up with the fabric right side up on top of it so that the heat and steam from the iron have less thickness to go through to get to the adhesive. A lot of the other interfacings I fuse with the wrong side or the non-adhesive side of the interfacing face up. Olfa's website says no cutting with utility knives or other blades. I'm not sure. Danny, this is not a, Danny, is this a utility? Is this a utility knife? Do they just mean not to? Blade. Okay, okay. Interesting. Thanks for sharing that information, by the way.
Probably because they don't make the product.
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you, Teresa. Teresa says, happy almost birthday, Sarah. My birthday actually falls on Thanksgiving this year, so I'm super excited to my birthday as well as Thanksgiving. Margaret says, how about a video for the Rockstar bag? That'll be coming up the first of the year, so that'll be one of the 4 new videos we're planning for the beginning of 2020. Gretchen says, you always have great ideas for games during the holidays for kids. Any suggestions this year? Oh, I wish Violet was in the other room. She could get this. I could see it. The kids were playing this game the other day, and it's really fun. It's called the Magic Labyrinth, and it's, I believe it's a European game. We've played it a bunch of times as a family, and it has to do with, it's a maze slash, it's a labyrinth game with the use of magnets. So I guess I can't explain it better than that, but it's a really fun game. What other games do we like to play, Danny? Code Names is another good name. I think another good game. I think I've mentioned it on the show in the past, but it's called Code Names. Great game for the family as well. I see you have glitter vinyl in your store. Do you ever use it? You seem to prefer cork. That's true. I'm trying to look if there's any bags back here that I used. I've certainly made bags with the glitter vinyl before, but not all of my bags are up here in the studio. Some are down in the basement. I'll have to pull one out and show you next week. Yes. Shannon says, do you have an awesome storage idea for the templates? I have seen a bunch of people in the Facebook group either use stand-up ruler organizers, meaning the acrylic templates would be vertical, or if you have some vertical room in your sewing area on the wall, I've seen a bunch of people use command hooks or something similar. Because the acrylic templates have holes in them, they're really good for hanging on the wall, and since they come in sets, people like to have several of the, well, I guess one set of template hanging on each peg. Henry says, will you have small and large tapered corner templates? So I'll show you the templates more in detail when they come in, but I designed the tapered corner paper template so that you can use it for either pillows or zipper pouches, which are smaller. So the great thing about this template is one corner is for the tapered corners pillows, and the other corner is for the zipper pouches. So both sizes of the template are in the one acrylic template. Judy says, Sarah, will you be releasing more SVG files for Minikins too and the other smaller projects? Yes, we do have plans for SVG files for Minikins Season 2 and some of the free projects like the Suffolk coin purse, what else? Persimmon dumpling pouch, some of the other free projects that we released this year. Because those are smaller projects, they work well for SVGs. We don't have those available yet, but hopefully in the near future. Barbara says, I noticed on the website that the Minikins acrylic templates are not on their bundles. Will you offer these again? So we actually reworked our inventory on the website, and so I removed the full sets of the Minikins acrylic templates, but they're still all available as single sets. Unfortunately, I had to make the choice to remove the 2 full bundle sets just because we wouldn't be able to keep proper inventory on them that way, and so my apologies, but all of the acrylic templates are still available for both Minikins Season 1 and Season 2 just separately. The comments come through so quickly. I know Danny's trying his best to read all the questions and pick those out as best as he can. Deborah says, have you ever tried the Marti rotary cutter? I haven't, but let me write that down so I can look it up. Oh, Martelli, I'm sorry. Martelli rotary cutter. I know they do have some great templates that they make. I believe they're backed with foam, so they're not clear and see-through, but they look really, really interesting. Cheryl says, any chance to get a sneak peek of upcoming patterns? I'm actually working on finishing the 3rd pattern up because I'm working on 4 new patterns. I'm planning on finishing that one up tomorrow, so perhaps next Sunday I can give you a sneak peek of that one since that'll be finished, I'm assuming, for next Sunday. Terry says, if you use sew and foam, does it slump in the center? I love the support of the foam. What I personally like to do with my sew-in foam is I get my cut piece of foam and I get my cut piece of fabric. Even though I've ironed the fabric out and it's nice and smooth, I like to iron the fabric again directly on top of the foam so that all the raw edges are aligned. So I'll iron it on top of the foam so that it's nice and smooth. I'll leave it on my ironing board or wool mat, since I like using my wool mats for pressing lately. And I'll just go ahead and get wonder clips right away and clip all the way around the outer edge, because it's just freshly pressed. There shouldn't be any wrinkles, puckers, or extra fabric slumping in the middle. So that's what I personally do. Wendy says, what is the difference between woven and non-woven interfacing? That's a great question. So your woven interfacing, Pellant Shape Flex is a great example. And because it's woven, it doesn't stretch. So another example that I can give you of a fabric that is woven is quilting cotton. So if you're familiar with quilting cotton, that really doesn't stretch either. Your non-woven interfacing will be, some of them will be for garment interfacings. Generally, the interfacings that we use for bag making are primarily woven, like the Pellant Shape Flex. Are there any options for interfacing, or if I don't want to use, what kind of fabric should I look for? That's a great question. If you don't want to use interfacing and you still want to make a bag, I would suggest looking for a thicker fabric, perhaps cork. Marine vinyl is another option. I suppose it depends on the design of the bag, the particular bag that you're working on, but it is possible to make a bag minus the interfacing. Leather is another option as well if you're using a thick enough leather. Kathleen says, I also struggle with getting a nice fitting lining. What is your secret in getting it to fit? So sometimes this adjustment depends on the particular fabric that you're working with, the very specific fabric that you're using. You can always take your lining in a little bit, meaning taking in the seam allowance. So for example, if your lining seam allowance is, well, let's start off with your exterior. If you would like to have a nice tight lining, if your exterior seam allowance is 1/2 inch, you can bump it up to 5/8 of an inch for the lining. Sometimes you want to start off, oftentimes I find is the case, you should start off with the interfacing is called, the seam allowance is called for in the pattern, and just kind of bump it up. So if you're using that 5/8 of an inch seam in your lining and you still find that your lining is too baggy for your liking, start with the 5/8 of an inch at the corner or at the edge when you first start sewing. Bump it up maybe to as big as 3/4 of an inch, and then bump it back down to 5/8 of an inch when you reach the other end of the fabric, so that your parts to your bags or your seams are still lining up, but because you bumped it up in the middle, it's kind of sucking in your lining a little bit, so it'll end up being a tighter fit. Carla says, good news, we just got paired up in Elster. I received an email just now. Thanks, Michelle. Oh, great. I'm so glad that that's working. Everyone should be receiving their partners shortly, and I look forward to seeing what everyone is making for the Secret Santa swap. Angela says, oh, sorry, I missed Angela's.
So it's too important.
Oh. Danny found it, thanks. Teresa says, Danny is awesome. He does a great job. Angela says, what types of interfacing do you use for your train cases? I just bought the pattern. I'm excited to get started on that one. So I don't think I have any, I don't have a train case in the studio to show you, but it's the Crimson and Clover train case, and that one uses 3 different kinds of interfacing: foam interfacing, Shape Flex, mostly for the lining, and it uses a Peltex product for the lid and the bottom of the train case, so that both your lid and the bottom of your case doesn't get saggy, especially from the weight of whatever you're putting inside. Jackie says, is there a pattern for the blue bag behind you? If you mean this one right here. Oh, I'm not sure if you meant this one. This was the blue bag. This is the Coalition bag. It comes in 2 different sizes. So this is the handbag size, and it also comes in a duffel size. This is actually one of my favorite bags to sew. If you meant the other blue one, well, this one has some blue on it. This is the Sublime bag right here. And both of those have videos as well, optional videos. Sue says, any chance of another book club? I was actually thinking about this the other day. I definitely like to. I still have a lot of sewing related fiction books in my Amazon wish list, so hopefully next year we can fit in a few book club selections. I might not do it the same that I did this year with 6 continuous months. I think I might like to break it up a little bit, maybe 2 or 3 book club selections over the year, but spread out over the year or something like that. But we'll let you know as soon as it gets closer to announcing another book club selection. Audrey says, any new patterns that might be released before Christmas? I'm fingers crossed. I'm hoping I can finish those 4 new patterns before Christmas. I was hoping before my birthday, but 2 of the patterns required special sizes and types of hardware to be made. So the great holdup was waiting to get those samples of hardware, and now I have to wait a few more weeks to get the actual hardware that we can have available in the shop. So I'm trying my best. I think we could definitely get it done before the end of the year though. Karen says, what is the best way to submit pictures for the Minikins challenges? It seems like the online link only allows 1 picture at a time, or do you have to make a collage in 1 picture file? That's a great question. Let me grab some water really quick. For the Minikins challenges, you only have to post 1 photo, so just pick, I guess, your most favorite photo of your project. And in some cases, you might need to resize that photo, meaning make it a little bit smaller of photo size, but it will let you know in the Linky tool. Each month, Minikins challenge is randomly drawn, so all you need to do is enter your photo and then sit back and wait for that random drawing. So thank you to everyone for asking your questions. I apologize if I did not get to your question live on the show, but we'll be back again next Sunday. I think next Sunday is the day that Danny's joining me, because my parents bumped him off last week, so looking forward to this Sunday. The giveaway for tonight is, again, 6 rolls of cork, because we've got always an abundance of cork in the studio. So these are 3 of the colors, and here's 3 more. So 6 pretty colors of cork. All you have to do to enter the giveaway is type your comment either on Facebook or YouTube on this video. What brand of fabric scissors do you use? So mine, let me grab them right here. I like my Kai scissors, model number 7205, but let me know what scissors are your favorite in the comments. Good luck to everyone. Thank you for watching the show. I hope you have a great week. I'm excited to be sewing my bag tomorrow. Have a great week and happy sewing. Bye, everybody.